What is going on, everyone, and welcome to Not Another CFB Pod. This is week 5. We're getting right through this season. It's been a blast so far, man. We had a pretty good week last week, too. I mean, I went 3-3 on our normal bets, but it was really the comeback story. You know, I had Liberty that Friday night, and they really let us down a little bit. It was some poor coaching decisions at the end, which I don't want to get too much into, but the Cheapies Parlay that really put us over the edge, Notre Dame and Boston College money line coming through for us in the afternoon on Saturday.
Yeah.
I mean, that made my whole day.
Oh, yeah, dude. I mean, for me, it was just getting that. I tailed on the Liberty game the night before. That was obviously a disappointment, but getting the Cheapies Parlay out of the way after the noon games and just having just already having that thrill of the win, I was like, I couldn't care less, and especially couldn't care less with how Wyoming got on against UConn. That was embarrassing, having them first half and full game, and even Buffalo against Old Dominion, who was up 35-7 at halftime and only won 35-34. I mean, it was a rough evening and afternoon. I also ended up going 3-3. All my winners were in the morning games on Saturday. So we'll hope. We're trying to break out of that 3-3. Let's get back to positive, back to week 0. And I'm hoping this week, we're gonna run with that, especially with another version of the Cheapies Parlay coming at the end of the show.
Yeah, stay tuned for that, no doubt.
I didn't take it, but I'm a little interested in UConn plus 14.5 against Vanderbilt this weekend, because Vanderbilt is really bad. They are terrible. And if UConn's gonna, the UConn true freshman came out. Who knows? Maybe I'll jump on it for shits and giggles, but gonna stay away from them as I've been saying. Fade them the whole time. Can't immediately lose one and immediately start picking them.
Yeah, that's a tough game to pick. Those are just two putrid teams.
Really bad.
That wouldn't even be in the weeds. That would be like in the garbage can. That would be a whole other hashtag. I mean,
dumpster diving.
Dumpster diving.
There you go.
Gosh. Yeah. Okay, well, I guess I'll kick us off. I've got a play for Saturday. I didn't do any Friday plays. I had one that I liked, which was Tulsa. The under in that game is supposed to rain up in Tulsa, but that number has jumped way down too, so there's really not as much value there anymore. So I'm going back to the University of Texas. They destroyed that over last week. I want the over with TCU this week. It's 65. The over is 65. Like it a lot. We've seen since Texas has switched to Casey Thompson at quarterback, it seems like he's clearly the guy they should have started from the beginning. I still can't believe they didn't start him to start the season. I think their record may even look a little different because they are an explosive team now. And then TCU on the other side of the ball, they've won this series 6 out of the last 7 times, which is insane. Somehow TCU and Gary Patterson just own the University of Texas. This game's in Fort Worth. We've already seen TCU's defense give up a ton of points. They lost last week to SMU. They let SMU score 42 on them on their home field. So if we get another performance like that from their defense and then their offense comes along and helps us out a little, I think Texas and TCU are going to smash this over at 65. We love Bijan Robinson. We love Max Duggan. There's just a lot of talent on the field offensively, and I think maybe not as much defensively, so explosive plays are going to happen. This over is going to go through the roof.
Yeah, I mean, we saw last week Texas put up 70 against a fine team in Texas Tech. So I love this. This number is really good. I think I'm going to tail that with you. And as someone who doesn't have a totals pick this week, got to get one on the board. Why not get one that so clearly is going to run it up a little bit? We hope. Fingers crossed. Knock on wood. For my first pick, I'm going to go a little against what I've normally been doing. You see all this year, I've been loving Georgia, putting everything on Georgia. I like the way this defense played. I like taking their first halves. I think they have a real test with the Razorbacks this week, and the Razorbacks number at 18.5. Plus 18.5 full game for the Arkansas Razorbacks, where the total is looking at, I think it's like 46 right now. Again, it's those bigger numbers on a small total to me scream that Vegas is expecting the team to sort of, one team to dominate and the other team not to score. I just see this as a real test. This Arkansas team is coming in so hot after last weekend's upset of Texas A&M. I love the energy that they're playing with. I love the Bulldogs. I do have some ties. My great-great-grandma bless her heart, passed away early last year at 106, lived in Fayetteville, woo pig suey all her life. So I'm taking Arkansas, the points here, plus 18.5. I just think that's too many points for as talented a team as Arkansas is, regardless of how good Georgia's defense is.
I like that pick. It's one I took already. And a fun fact about me, I was actually born in Fayetteville. So I got a little bit of that in me too. But like I said, I already took this bet, 18.5, a ton of points. And Action App actually has a formula out of large number spreads with low number totals. It's like 60% that the underdog covers or something crazy like that. So I saw that too. And that all the lights are flashing Arkansas. So I'm right there with you, man, on that one. On my next one, I'm actually going to go back to something that's worked a lot for me this season. I'm taking Wake Forest minus 6.5. They're getting Louisville at home in the middle of the day. It's 11:30 where I'm at, 12:30 on the East Coast. Sam Hartman, 9 super seniors, taking on Louisville at home. Louisville, a team that's they did beat Florida State in Florida State's house last week, but at the same time, they scored 0 points in the second half. Florida State came all the way back and nearly completed the comeback, didn't get it done. But I love what Sam Hartman and this offense is doing, and the Wake Forest defense has been good. They smashed Virginia on Friday night. That was a pick we had over here, Wake Forest +4. We loved it, and they won straight up. I actually had sprinkled some on the money line as well. I didn't give that pick out, but it was a great, I had those 2 plays on that Friday night, and then I had Liberty letting me down. So it was like kind of an even night for me. But I'm going right back to Wake Forest. Love what Sam Hartman and this offense can do, and the defense has given me some backing too. So give me Wake Forest, Demon Deacons minus 6.5.
I was sniffing around this total, but exactly what you said, Louisville didn't score the entire fourth quarter, and this Wake defense is really, they really laid it to Virginia, which was an offense that was slinging the ball around pretty consistently prior to that game. So, it's a decent number to look at for the total, but I think I just had to stay away. I like the pick here. I like Wake minus 6.5, and might tell you on that one as my little sister's a Wake Forest alum, so go Deeks. Exactly. But yeah, for my next one, I'm going to go back up north, the Big Ten matchup, Michigan versus Wisconsin. Michigan +2. What I saw from Wisconsin last weekend was about the most uninspired offensive display, and in the fourth quarter, in desperation mode, when the game was, not entirely out of reach, an 8-point game, just completely crumbling. This team is not like the Wisconsin of old. They should have been able to dominate the middle of that field against that Notre Dame defense, which its strengths are in its linebackers and safeties who they can bring into the box, but Wisconsin typically should be able to do that. Michigan obviously didn't cover the 20 points against Rutgers, but I think this Rutgers team is very feisty, and you'll hear more from them later. I'd like Michigan here in this spot. I believe they are going to Wisconsin, which is, that's Camp Randall obviously gets going. But I like Michigan here. I like what they've been doing this year. And I think this Wisconsin team is starting to smell of some quitting after that walloping that Notre Dame put on them. And Notre Dame put it on them as fucking 6-point underdogs. So I like Michigan in this spot. I think Michigan is really focusing this year on competing in the Big Ten East, and we'll see. I just like the +2 a lot. I think that's a great number.
I like this play as well. In Michigan, it is at Camp Randall, you're right, but it's a 11 a.m. game. I believe they're Central Time, so 11 a.m. game there. The crowd's going to be going because it's Wisconsin, but it's going to be a little bit. I mean, they're 1-2 right now, and their offense hasn't shown us anything. I think this is a pretty even matchup, but what makes the difference is Michigan's offense has done some things. We've seen them score in places, so we know their quarterback is at least capable. Graham Mertz right now, we don't know what we're going to get. I mean, like you said, he was just so bad in that fourth quarter. So, yeah, I like the Michigan Wolverines here too. My next play, and I think you have a play on this game too, so maybe you can follow up after I'm done with mine. For sure. But this is a 3:30 East Coast game, 2:30 Central. Ole Miss at Bama. I'm actually taking this over. It's a massive number. 79, over 79. I've even seen an 80 in some places. It gets kind of scary there. But here's why I don't mind that number. Last year, this matchup went to 111, and that was without overtime. And this Ole Miss team, especially offensively, I think is a step better than they were last year. I think their defense isn't necessarily going to get stops. Bama, we saw against Florida, has holes. Now, that was a lot of that. It was on the ground. But Ole Miss can run the ball a little bit too. They'll surprise you. Matt Corral, the Heisman campaign's going strong. And Bryce Young on the other side of the ball, the quarterback for Bama. He's had a good season so far. I think we're going to see him take a big step forward here at home. And I think this is just going to be fireworks. I think Lane Kiffin knows not to get too cute. Just run his offense, go fast. The pace of this game is going to be good for this over, I believe, unless Bama just decides to go into an absolute shell, which I don't think they'll do because Saban's smart enough to know if you go slow and give Ole Miss some opportunities where you have to punt back to them, they're going to take advantage. So I like this over 79.
Wow, I mean, it's the SEC record for an over-under line. So taking the over, you got to love it. I mean, I like that play a lot. I might just be a little too scared. Because I can see I can see this one ending like 45-27, and then you're out of luck, or are you? I mean, I think you are. But math's not my strong suit. But yeah, so I can see that a lot. I expect Kiffin to go in and keep it simple and be like, listen, what are our strengths? How do we, break this defense? And yeah, exactly right. I can totally see that. So I'm also on this game, but I'm on in the roll with the tide until you can't roll anymore. I'm on the Alabama minus 7.5 first half. To me, this, again, I don't like the 14.5 full game line because I feel that Ole Miss, regardless of how, if Bama is able to kind of boat race them and get out to a big lead, Ole Miss can chew that up and lose by 13. Yep. Like very easily with the way that they run their offense and the way that Kiffin, I assume, will approach this game. He's not going to give up. He knows his offense is going to have if he has his offense humming and they can score points, they're going to be able to get back in it. I like the 7.5 point first half. I think Bama will come out hot. Bryce Young at home, 3:30 p.m. game. It's going to be hopping in Tuscaloosa. Once again, gets off to their fast starts and keeps the pressure on, and hopefully their defense can get a couple key stops because that's going to the game is going to be decided in how many stops can the Alabama defense get. And I'm essentially sort of hammering that all onto the first half, being they'll get the stops they need in the first half. And then once they get a little tired after running all over the place in the second half, that's when Ole Miss gets back in the game.
Yeah, I can see that for sure. I would love to see what Bama's point differential in the first quarter is. I don't have that in front of me, but it's got to be a big, big number.
I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and go into my next play. I like Army at Ball State. I'm taking Army minus 7.5, supporting the troops. Ball State's got problems stopping the run. If you look at the advanced statistics, which I'm not a huge advanced statistics guy, but they are 111th in line yards, 110th in defensive rushing success rate, and 127th in standard downs success rate. So basically that means that they're giving up plays. And this Army team is experienced. They're 4-0 to start this season, and that's for a reason. They're not turning the ball over a lot. They're playing Army football. They're just running that option. And when they need to, they can pop a little pass. They're only averaging 70 yards passing a game, but they're averaging 344 yards rushing a game. So we love that. And I think this is just a matchup where, maybe it is close for that first half, but when these triple option teams hit you over and over and over again, that second half, you start to get tired of it as a defensive player. And that's when Army will break some big ones. They've had some explosive plays as well this year. So I like the Army Black Knights minus 7.5.
There we go. Got to support the troops. And especially with if the weakness of Ball State is the run, there can't be any team better to play them than the Army Black Knights in that triple option. It's just, it wears you down on a lot of teams. So until they start bringing in the backups and everyone plays and UConn covers by 2 points, but we don't need to get back into that. So I'll go to my next one. It's another +2, and it's another team from last weekend one of the Cheapies Parlays team. It's Notre Dame +2 at home versus Cincinnati. I don't understand what Vegas is doing with this Notre Dame team. This Notre Dame team is very clearly a good team. I don't think Cincinnati is as good as a lot of people are giving them credit for. They got spooked by Indiana in Bloomington last weekend, or was it 2 weekends ago?
2 weekends ago. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And that team, they had to have a lot go their way to not only cover, but to win, And going into South Bend and playing a Notre Dame team that's coming off a huge win against Wisconsin in Soldier Field, that to me is a recipe for Notre Dame to take another one. I just don't see Notre Dame. This team this year had the absolute bonkers game against Florida State week 1 and recovered from that and didn't let that get them. Florida State really jumped on them and they were able to hold on in the end. This just reads as a team that knows how to win, that's well coached. We hope Jack Cohn can get back, but obviously the backup kid did just fine in the end. And I see this being another low-scoring affair. I don't see Cincinnati collapsing in the fourth like Mertz did. I see Ritter, doing a good game, but the +2 again, I think it's a good number, and we'll see the money line later on as well.
Yeah, I think it's a thing where people just must like betting against Notre Dame, and this line where Cincinnati's favored must make people feel like, oh man, this is a good way to bet against Notre Dame. They're playing a better team this week. I don't know, but it does seem like it's a little bit disrespectful. Notre Dame sometimes, maybe it's not the prettiest product, but they just find ways to win these games. We've seen this in the past. They don't necessarily cover all the time. They did last week, obviously, easily, but sometimes maybe they don't cover all the time, but they just find a way to win games under Brian Kelly, it seems like. So, yeah, I don't hate this at all. I'm actually going to the other team that won us the Cheapies Parlay last week. This is the Boston College Eagles, my Boston College Eagles, going to Clemson, getting 15.5 points. Boston College plus 15.5. I like the Eagles here, honestly. I think they could scare them and maybe even win straight up. I don't know how, and this is another one of those games, Squilly, where it's a high spread but a low total. And so it's like it's kind of telling a weird story. I don't even know how many points Clemson can score. Boston College has a really solid defense as well. I just don't know. Boston College coming off a huge win. It did take overtime to beat Mizzou, but it was kind of some fluky stuff that got Mizzou into overtime. I was shocked. I thought I jinxed the game. But Boston College obviously won a huge spot at home. I think they're up for this challenge. They had some really cool social media posts this week leading up to this game. Some cool, just like little hype videos. We're headed into Death Valley, which I think is the fake Death Valley, but you didn't hear that from me.
I agree.
So I've just been on this fade Dabo, fade DJU thing, and it's really their offensive line that's just letting them down. Clemson, that is. They also lost their starting running back Shipley, and if you remember a couple weeks back, their original starter transferred out because Shipley was getting carries. So now they're going to be on their third string running back behind this terrible offensive line. Their best defensive lineman is out for the year. I don't know. I just think Boston College, they've played Clemson close plenty of times, so they have confidence against these guys. 15.5 seems like a ton of points. It is a night game, but I love Boston College here. 15.5, plenty of points, I think.
Yeah, I'm actually with you right on it. That's one of my picks as well. BC 15.5. I love that number. 15.5 is a great number, especially when you isolate that the total is going to be low as well. For me, I'm just not high on this Clemson team. I just don't. I wasn't high on them to start the season. I took their regular season wins under. That's already hit 3 weeks in.
Nice.
How? This team, they're succeeding at their rate of success for me, as compared to what I expected from them, has been much lower. They have been in dogfights with teams like Georgia Tech, having still losing to NC State after the field goal kicker missed 3 field goals. You got every chance to win there. You had every chance to come back and win that game. I just don't see this Clemson team and this Eagles team and this Clemson team are on two different trajectories of momentum. This Eagles team is fired up, 4-0, essentially competing in the division to go to the ACC championship right now.
Absolutely.
And this Clemson team already has 2 losses. And Dabo is sort of grasping at straws, looking for where's Trevor Lawrence, where's Travis Etienne. The only guy from those teams that's still there is Ross. And he played great, but this is a new Clemson team that is not the same as the Trevor Lawrence years, where they could essentially rely on him and the rest of the guys around him. Yeah, I'm with you. BC plus 15.5. They came through with us on a tight one and still found a way to win in overtime, whereas Clemson got an overtime gifted to them and found a way to lose. I think 15.5 is too many points. BC covers this one.
Go Eagles, man. Let's go.
Go Birds, baby.
I'm going to the real Death Valley. I'm headed to the LSU Tigers. They're playing Auburn at home, -3.5. This is an 8 p.m. Central game. This is going to be a late kick. Those LSU fans are going to be drunk. It's going to be an insane scene. I love them at home. Auburn is a good running team, and that does kind of match up poorly with LSU's defense. That's kind of where they've struggled, is against the run. But right now they've got problems at quarterback. They don't know who's starting. Bo Nix was benched last week. They nearly lost to Georgia State. We're pretty lucky, got a few good calls late and ended up winning that game, but with Bo Nix sitting on the bench. And it's not like his backup came in and just lit the world on fire. I think he barely had an above 50% completion rate. They're kind of a team that's in disarray right now. As we know, LSU last week faced off with Mississippi State, and they did have a pretty big lead in that game, but they really, really took their foot off the gas and let Mississippi State back in it. They only ended up winning by 3, but still a really good win on the road. LSU, I think they're slowly going to figure it out. I'm not saying that I'm a huge believer. I think this is more me just not really believing in Auburn in this spot. They play Georgia next week, so how can you really know what to expect from this Auburn team right now? So I'll take LSU in the real Death Valley at 8 p.m., -3.5. I think that crowd's just going to be going, and Bo Nix has been really bad on the road if it's him. And if it's his backup, I believe it's his backup's first start. That's also a good scenario for Death Valley, so give me the Tigers.
Yeah, I like that. I like that number 3.5 too. I may tell you, I didn't realize it was going to be that late of a start, which they might have drank all the booze in Baton Rouge out of the weekend by that point. As we know, those LSU fans really can get down with the hooch. So I mean, yeah, I like it. 3.5. I think Bo Nix is horrible, and to start, regardless if it's his backup or Bo Nix, to start your first game in LSU Death Valley under the lights, not going to be a fun time. You're not going to have a good time at all. So I'm with you there. I think I may tell you, just as I'm telling you on the Texas TCU over. I like that a lot. I believe it's my last one here, because we covered the BC and Bama as jointly. I'm going to go back to a team that has been covering pretty much all season long as underdogs, and that's Rutgers. It's the Scarlet Knights. Again, as I said earlier, feisty team. They always seem like they're just barely in the game, or winning outright in some spots, beating Syracuse, then covering against Michigan last week. I really like them here at the 15 number against an Ohio State team that is starting to find its identity offensively, but still has a lot of holes on the defensive side of the ball. Like, again, they're sort of experiencing the same thing Clemson is on defense, where they've got tons of great individual athletes, but they're not gelling together as a scheme, and that's allowing teams to move the ball on them and get good chances to score. I think Clemson's problem is definitely more on its offensive side of the ball than it is on its defense, but I fully anticipate this Rutgers team, who always likes to play Ohio close. They love to play the Ohio State close, so it's just, to me, 15 points, again, awesome number. I wouldn't, if it drops below a touchdown, 2 touchdowns, I would have trouble taking it there, but I like the 15. I know Shiano's going to make it difficult on them. I like Rutgers here. They've done well throughout the season. I believe they're 3-1 against the spread. So I think you absolutely continue to ride with them here. I know it's going to be a big spot. I know it's against a really, really great offensive team in Ohio. I mean, they were 20-point underdogs against Michigan last week, and that doesn't make any sense to me. I'm just hoping this line isn't an overcorrection from Vegas.
Yeah, I like it too. And I don't know if you saw the news, but it looks like CJ Stroud isn't going to start this game for Ohio State. They're going to start a true freshman in this spot. So it could be something. I mean, I halfway expect Rutgers to have a decent little crowd. Like you said, they're 3-1 to start the season. A lot of reasons to be excited. They barely got beat by Michigan. Next, I think we should talk about the Cheapies Parlay. Now, it was an idea that you just came up with. I don't know if it was on the spot or you had it planned beforehand, but it blew my mind, and we hit big time plus 520 odds. It was the BC money line and the Notre Dame money line. It was so much fun. So I know you've got one cooked up for this week as well, so I wanted you to introduce it.
Yeah, for sure. I've got another one. I think for me, the big thing was just I loved the numbers in both those games, and I loved their money lines. And I was like, wait, hold on. We know tons of Cheapies are Notre Dame guys, tons of Cheapies are BC guys. Let's just call it the Cheapie Parlay and run it together. And so that was sort of it all kind of came into my head all at once as a little beautiful supernova. But for this week, we're going to a place, we're going to one big-time Cheapies, big-time Cheapies locale, big-time alma mater. That's the Fighting Irish. We're back to them. I love this team. Anytime this team is a underdog, I'm taking their money line. That's straight up. It's plus 110 right now. And then Michigan. We're going to take Michigan plus 110 money line on the road against Wisconsin. Again, this is kind of, as I said earlier in the podcast on my Michigan breakdown, this is heavily driven by last week's game where Notre Dame demonstrated that they are for real, I think, and Wisconsin demonstrated that they are absolutely not for real. I like Michigan here. The odds aren't as long as the plus 520 because it's still both 2-point spreads. I believe it's like a plus 340 or something like that.
Somewhere in that low 300s range.
Yeah, it's not going to be as exactly. It's not going to be as lucrative as last time, but it's a little tighter, a little cleaner. I like them both in these spots again. Michigan money line, Notre Dame money line, Cheapies parlay for the week. Hopefully those Wolverine Cheapies come out. We know the ND Cheapies are going to be rowdy and are going to be on it. Shout out to everyone who rode the Cheapies parlay. I hope you guys major cashed out. Sorry for PG, and I know huge asshole definitely jinxed it. So, because he was messaging me saying it hit, and then they hit the 56-yard field goal. So, No jinxes next week. We're going to keep fighting. I think we love this here. Plus 330, plus, 320 through 340, somewhere in there. Let's make some more money again and feel good. Especially, I believe, it's after 2 noon games. So, going into the night, feeling great.
Yeah, that was definitely a lot of fun, and I learned my lesson not to call it too early on these money lines. You kind of got to wait. But it was a miracle long field goal to get there. But yeah, so excited about this one as well. And I guess that wraps up week 5 here for us. I don't know. Do you have any final thoughts?
I don't know. I'm excited for this week. I'm taking a lot of underdogs. I haven't really been doing that. I've been going with favorites.
Yep.
I like what I see from the board, and I love the games this week. I think there's tons of great games on. Georgia, Arkansas, Ole Miss, Bama, Michigan, Wisconsin, Notre Dame, Cincinnati. I would even count Rutgers, Ohio State, especially Auburn LSU.
Yep.
And then, there's some absolutely great games this week. Keep an eye out. OU, Kansas State. Be careful, OU. You're playing a scrappy team. Be careful. So I'm hoping OU rounds into form as I have a lot on them in the future. So need those guys, the Sooners. They look like a team who's going to battle through, win a lot of close games, go undefeated, and make it to the college football playoff. And then from there, it's anyone's game.
That's the way it feels for sure. Well, hey, thanks for sticking with us, guys. Also, remember that if you are on any other platforms, we're on YouTube, we're on Spotify, and we're on Apple Podcasts now, all 3 of those. So pick your favorite format. I know some people prefer the video. I do a little bit I kind of have our picks above the screen and our names and everything. I don't know. It's a little bit to look at.
It's a production. It's nice.
Yeah. And then Spotify and Apple, obviously, if you're on the go and you just want the audio, those platforms are all out there. We appreciate you guys. It was a lot of fun when we hit that Cheapies Parlay. I was getting tons of DMs and people just tweeting at us, so that was a blast. So be sure to stay tuned in. We'll be right back here next Thursday as well. Let us know if you tell these picks, too. It's always fun to kind of see who's cheering with us or maybe who's cheering against us, whatever. So thanks a lot, guys. Peace out.
All right, thanks, guys. Later.